It's Thursday, 29th of August 2024, and welcome to the Water Action Platform. I'm Jo Burgess, and this month we're paying special attention to pharmaceuticals in the environment. Haleon sponsor the Water Action Platform and our Advanced Industrial Trial Reservoir, along with the other wonderful sponsors shown here. Haleon is a world-leading consumer health company with a clear purpose to deliver better everyday health with humanity. Making better everyday health more sustainable is fundamental to their business. Now, many of Haleon's concerns are universal: carbon emissions, sustainable packaging, sustainably sourced ingredients, minimal waste. But in water stewardship terms, Haleon also care about another issue: pharmaceuticals in the environment. Pharmaceuticals are medicines that we use to prevent, to cure, and to alleviate medical conditions. And some of these products can end up in surface water and groundwater, and therefore in drinking water. This can happen when we, the consumers, excrete the excess after use, when we dispose of them improperly, or when they're released inadvertently during manufacturing. This is a problem because pharmaceuticals can have negative effects on ecosystems. Some studies have shown that exposure to antibiotics can cause bacteria to develop resistance, making infections much harder to treat. It's important for us in the water sector to be aware of pharmaceuticals in water, the way they move around the water cycle, and what we can do to stop them from spreading throughout the environment. The water cycle crosses all sorts of boundaries: national borders, industrial sectors, from air to water to soil, and intuition tells us that we need a coordinated response. I recently had the pleasure of speaking with two people with unique insights on the subject of how collaboration can drive sustainable systems change to address pharmaceuticals in the environment. Chris, Thomas, wonderful to have you with us. To get us started, I'm going to ask you for a little bit about yourselves. So, who are you? What do you do for work? And what do you do for fun? Chris, over to you.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for having me. I'm Chris Pratt, and I'm Group Managing Director for Burson's Sustainability and Social Impact team. So we do a lot of program building and engagement activity for clients looking to drive sustainability in their organizations and in the societies in which they're based. And for fun, I love the outdoors. I love camping and cycling, and I'm loving introducing my 3-year-old son to those at the moment.
Fantastic. And Thomas, the beard says engineer, but tell us a bit about you as well.
Well, Thomas, I'm director at Swedish Waterhouse at Stockholm International Water Institute, and what we do is that we work with knowledge sharing and convening stakeholders to work together between science, policy, and practitioners. Personally, I enjoy bringing my kids also to the nature, but I do love to bring them to a Foo Fighters concert, as well as making a fermented cabbage at home.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so we've got two people who are very outdoors, into the environment, also bringing on the next generation to appreciate the same things as you do. So I can see how you've both gravitated towards the field of pollution mitigation and caring for the wider environment. Thomas, question for you then. So can you summarize the challenge that we're facing and what the latest findings are on pollution with pharmaceuticals in the environment in the EU?
I would say that one of the most pressing issues on biodiversity and human health is wastewater related to the climate change in terms of heavy rainfalls, flooding, and drought. Because wastewater and stormwater entering our environment badly or completely untreated is fairly or very badly jeopardizing nature and public health. Even to the exchange where fish in aquatics is changing gender from female to male, and the reproduction will be affected. Treatment of the wastewater and treatment of stormwater and plants and also helpful supportive regulatory frameworks is what we need. And the last 5 years, I would say that the European institutions have proactively updated the European Water Acquis to align with the new challenges and what we're facing. in initiatives like the Resilient Water Initiative, there's a call for a new common water strategy, etc., among the European socio-economic actors, and also securing that water is of the right quality at the right time.
Yeah, right quality, right time, and in the right place. But the things that you've talked about are a whole system. So physical systems that involve infrastructure, regulatory systems that involve policy, and in the EU, a range of interlinked policies, which brings me nicely into Chris's area of expertise. So Chris, you talked about systems change and managing systems change. What does that actually mean? Can you give us an example of a systems change approach that would relate to this particular issue that Thomas has just outlined?
Yes, thank you. I think so often in sustainability, we're dealing with and trying to address problems in our societies and economies that are part of a wider ecosystem, that have a relationship and interrelationship with so many other different systems. So the interrelationship between our food system and our energy system or our water system. And to take a systems-wide approach is to not focus on any of the individual parts of that system necessarily, but to recognize the interconnectedness and to recognize that none of those parts are static and constant, but are actually dynamic and fluid and changing regularly. I suppose from my own experience, I worked for 10 years in energy policy, and our energy system is, particularly in Europe, fairly well advanced in terms of the transition to renewables. But that hasn't happened by accident. And that system has changed because a number of different levers have been pulled, and whether that is through regulatory intervention and governments creating incentives for that market, or whether that is through agreements between organizations to create the skills transformation needed in the economy to support that transformation.
Why do you think a system change approach would be beneficial in the water sector, and how could something like a cross-industry collaboration complement these kinds of changes that you talked about?
Well, I think the starting point is that water is itself a system, right? It is, by its nature, covers so many different aspects of our economy and our societies, and there are so many different actors, whether that is water users, whether that is businesses within the water system, water treatment, and water people and organizations that put pollutants into water. There are so many different actors, so many different parts of the system that need to work together in order to address that challenge. I think the risk is, if we don't look at this challenge through a systemic lens, then we run the risk of too narrowly focusing regulatory intervention or any of the other levers that we need to pull. And, for example, only focusing on one particular pollutant.
So while we're on the subject of different stakeholders, different players, and different levers, if I can use Chris's words, that all need to be pulled in order to make system change happen. For those watching, there is an on-screen poll that's now being launched in the chat box. And what we would like you to do is, not right now, but listen to the next part of this particular segment, and then click on the answers that you think are the closest to your own opinion. And if there's nothing there that really represents what you think, then feel free to just type it into the chat box, and we'll get a bit of a debate going there. Okay, so while that's happening, back to Thomas. The next question that I have for you is, are there specific issues that you think across industry or even across sector collaboration would help to resolve?
So I say that the private sector is one of the keys to unlock the rapid movement and transformation we need, not least since every industry use and influence water throughout their value chain. So cross-sector dialogue, cooperation is crucial for any industry and for the science to get the information and facts, and for policymakers to make the right decisions that can create incentives and frameworks and regulatory directions that also the industries can follow and develop on. So I think collaboration, all hands on deck, is the only path forward.
What would you say are the biggest lessons learned from your perspective that we could bring into water and the adjacent industries for taking care of these kinds of big, complex, wicked pollution issues that we face?
Yeah, and I think there are a number, and I can't be exhaustive here, obviously, but I think it might seem straightforward to say, but simply having a shared understanding of the challenge and what needs to be achieved by when is fundamental. So having those sector level targets that everybody is channeled towards and focused on, even though that they may appear way off in the distance, are still vital, so that there is that shared understanding of the same journey that we're all traveling on. I think as well, and working with private sector, as Thomas said, is so important. Private sector needs that certainty from government and policymakers. They need that longer term perspective in terms of how this transition is going to happen and what part they have to play. But they also have a really crucial role in terms of bringing finance, scaling solutions, and taking part in the policy making process in such a way that can make that policy more effective.
So we're looking for roles and responsibilities, I guess. Who's going to do what and when, so that we've got the actionable steps now that take us to a stretching but achievable goal further on in the future. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, we're not going to stop using water in all of the sectors that Thomas described. It's the most incredible reagent. It's a dipolar solvent. It's all around us. It's endlessly recyclable. It's absolutely fine to use water. We just can't waste water. Chris, Thomas, thank you both very, very much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And now over to the audience. We want to hear from you. Please have a look at the on-screen poll where you can provide your reflections and thoughts on how a multi-actor coalition might drive systems change in the water sector in its adjacency to the pharmaceutical sector. Chris, Thomas, thanks again.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
When Chris says it, it's obvious we need an ambitious but realistic end goal, and to work towards it with a step-by-step plan of actions where it's clear who should take which action and when. Often easier said than done, so we're keen to see what you think in our poll. What action area should a collaboration seeking to address water pollution prioritise in order to achieve sustainable systems change? Thomas's point about wastewater treatment, about stopping the future influx of pharmaceuticals into receiving waters, is a critical one. Our next guests are a great example of exactly this. In December 2021, Martin Ryan from Pharm Biotech presented their technology, Zymatic, a low-energy, low-cost technology for targeted removal of organic micropollutants. Now, they achieve this through the use of special enzymes, introduced in the later stages of the wastewater treatment process. Zymatic targets various organic micropollutants which have one thing in common. Their chemistry makes them recalcitrant. They're difficult to remove in conventional wastewater treatment processes, so they persist in the treated effluent, and then they cause toxic effects in the receiving environment. Pharm have built up a library of enzymes based on those found naturally in fungi and bacteria, so they can tailor each treatment process to a specific compound. How they do that is they target specific functional groups on the pollutant molecule that are responsible for its toxic effects, and by destroying the functional group, Zymatic removes the toxicity of the compound before it ends up in the environment. Pharm immobilized the enzymes on a sand-like material, which is contained in a gravity-fed filtration column where the enzymes break down the target contaminants. Enter AkzoNobel adhesives in Sweden. AkzoNobel treat their wastewater using biological processes. Driven by their internal sustainability goals and their expectation of increasingly stringent legislation, they are now working with Pharm to target and remove melamine residuals in their wastewater. Their technology trial is supported by Isle's Advanced Industrial Trial Reservoir, so I sat down with Martin Ryan, CEO of Pharm, and AkzoNobel's site manager, Anne Gustafsson, and I asked them what the Zymatic trial entails and, if it works, what's next. Thank you both very much for joining us on the Water Action platform. I am delighted to have you, and congratulations on the launch of your trial, the newest one in the Advanced Industrial Water Trial Reservoir. Martin, the first question is for you. Can you give us in a nutshell what your technology is and what it does?
Yeah, sure. So we developed a enzyme-based water filtration system, and the core part of it is actually that we developed a platform that allows enzymes to be used in a very cost-efficient way for both industrial wastewater but also municipal wastewater.
Oh, amazing. And what do these enzymes do?
So the good thing with the platform is that we can use any type of enzymes, and the enzymes have been researched all over the place for different type of applications, but the challenge has always been to make it cost efficient enough to bring it to the market, and that's what we can do with our platform. And the enzymes we use focus on breaking down the pollutants or the chemicals to lesser parts that are less toxic or completely mineralized, depending on customer needs.
Anne, over to you. From your perspective, what's the driver for this trial? So what need is this trial intended to satisfy?
I work at a site where we have a biological treatment of the wastewater that we get from the process. And we are fulfilling the permits that we have for the site, but we also have some challenges in decreasing our outlets further that goes out to the surroundings here. So this is something that we think that we can get help with from working with the enzyme filter. Particularly, we want to focus on some specific chemical that we think that if we can decrease this will also lower all or some of the other subjects that we have in the water that goes out to the surrounding.
That's fascinating. What's the driver that causes you to focus on that need? Is it a legislative requirement, a cost requirement, or a corporate goal, for example?
It's both that the company I work for is very much focused on working on sustainability, but also one other main driver for us is also that we have the EU legislation that concerns wastewater plants. So it's partly both from our own initiative, but also from legislation point of view.
Martin, if I can come back to you, what do you think the change in the EU legislation is going to mean for your company's development and your technology?
Only positive things. The challenge with how we work with enzymes is that we usually combine different type of enzymes and to give different type of effect profiles and these kind of things. So what the legislation does for us is that it really pinpoints what is needed and what you need to treat. So in that sense, we can be more specific in how we develop our solution and which type of enzymes we use in the solution. So that allows us to simply be more specific in the different versions of the product that we have to deploy into the market.
Back to Anne then for the last question. What are your hopes and dreams? What would you like to do at the end of the trial period, all being well?
I really want, of course, that the trial will be successful, because that will also mean that we will buy it and use it as part of our wastewater plant that we have today. So that's my dream for this project that we have together.
Anne and Martin, thank you. I can't wait to see the trial results, and I love the way Anne's words echoed those of Chris earlier. Change is being driven by AkzoNobel's foresight in setting their own internal goals and also keeping an eye on future legislative change. So they're trying new methods now so they will be ready before the rules change. We now come to this month's technology showcase. In contrast to the biological approach, Up2E specialise in oxidation chemistry. Their advanced oxidation processes are extremely well suited to micropollutants, including fugitive active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs. Here's Up2E's managing partner, Ulla Pöschl, to tell us what they're doing and why.
As you may now be able to tell, Up2E is a little different. But what does that mean? It not only means we make our work life enjoyable, but it means we try to do the same for our clients. We strive to provide our clients with peace of mind when it comes to wastewater or process water challenges. Up2E is a ski-on-water portfolio company with a sole focus on advanced oxidation by using ozone in a more efficient and flexible way as compared to common treatment techniques. Our technology platform is particularly suited for the treatment of rinse water or wastewater containing active pharmaceutical ingredients. During production of pharmaceuticals, Rinsing water containing high levels of API is generated. The rinsing water contains complex molecules which can usually not be eliminated in classical treatment systems. Advanced oxidation processes, however, do eliminate APIs since hydroxyl radicals are formed reacting with complex wastewater constituents. When it comes to advanced oxidation processes, there are different approaches to utilize the hydroxyl radicals for enhanced elimination rates. So why does Up2E prefer ozone? Simply because using ozone means using the power of nature to clean water. But that is not the only reason. Ozone is one of the strongest oxidizing agents we have. It has more oxidizing potential than hydrogen peroxide or chlorine, and once it has reacted, only oxygen remains. On top of that, it only takes power and oxygen to generate ozone, so it is produced on site right where it is needed. Since ozone can be used for so many different applications and contaminants, there is the misperception that ozone only needs to be dosed to the process water or wastewater stream, and the problem is solved. Unfortunately, or fortunately for Up2E, it is not that simple. A major part of successfully and efficiently oxidizing APIs is creating a large water ozone gas surface matrix. With our innovative and proprietary gas mass transfer technology, the Roturi, we achieve exactly that. By the way, I'm sitting inside one of our fully housed and mobile AAAOP units for the oil and gas industry, and to my left, you see a threefold Roturi skid to dose high amounts of ozone into highly contaminated fluids. Understanding the oxidation kinetics and the process, but even more so, understanding the challenges when it comes to API elimination, is key to a technically and economically viable treatment solution. Various parameters come into play. A few examples are pH, temperature, gas to liquid ratio, the cocktail of contaminants present, and of course the type of molecules, to mention only a few. Up2E's advanced oxidation process is already utilized by the food and beverage industry, aquaculture, the oil and gas industry, the chemical industry, as well as the pharmaceutical industry. Aside from wastewater or rinsing water treatment, Up2E's platform technology can also be used as final treatment of process water. Thorough research with an internationally active pharma company has been conducted in collaboration with one of our sister companies at Skion, and we were able to show that out of 35 substances oxidized, no PNEC levels were exceeded and the results showed no genotoxicity. Still need peace of mind? Call us.
Thank you, Ulla. Both Ulla and Martin have given us excellent insights into how we can deal with pharmaceuticals as fugitive emissions from manufacturing. But remembering Thomas's earlier comments about how pharmaceuticals find their way into the natural environment in other ways, there's something even simpler that we can all do about it every day, even in our own homes. And finally, we're asking, what's in my wee? This is a peek into the wild world of the cocktail of medications swirling in our sewers. You might be surprised to learn that when we take medication, not all of it gets used by our bodies. In fact, a significant proportion ends up right where you'd expect it, in our urine and feces. But it's not just what comes out of us naturally. Improper disposal of unused or expired medication is also a major issue. And you might be thinking, so what? It's just a couple of pills. But here's the kicker. We're talking about a global issue affecting water systems everywhere. From painkillers and antibiotics to hormones and antidepressants, traces of these compounds are showing up in our rivers, lakes, and now even in our drinking water. It's a pharmaceutical soup out there. And it's not just the original medications we worry about. As the compounds break down, they form multitudinous new daughter chemicals that can also be problematic. And these residues have some pretty wild effects on aquatic life. Now here's where you come in. We can all play a part. Instead of flushing unused medications, take them to a proper disposal site, usually your local pharmacy, or mix them with an undesirable substance like used coffee grounds before throwing them in a bin. And remember, every little bit helps. So next time you're about to flush, think about what might be hitching a ride in your wee. With that, we come to the end of this month's Water Action Platform, and I'll close with a couple of notices. The first is that we're thrilled to support Severn Trent's Wavemakers International Competition, which is open for applications until the 13th of September. The Zero Spills Hub initiative aims to eliminate storm overflows using innovative, multifaceted solutions. So we invite technology innovators worldwide to submit your groundbreaking ideas in areas like AI optimization, waste stream separation, novel wastewater treatments, and smart storage systems. For more information and how to apply, please visit this website. Secondly, a reminder about the water climate discussion that we announced last month.
Take longer baths. If you're anything like me, most of your best ideas probably come in the shower or the bath. But if you're anything like me, you know that showers are more sustainable and shorter showers are more sustainable still. So where's the time for the good ideas? Well, I had a first bath in quite a while, a few weeks ago, and the ideas were just flowing. It was like my subconscious had been storing them up. I had so many ideas, I lost count. There were a couple that I reckon could probably save more carbon than a lifetime of me taking baths. So I'd encourage you to value water, to enjoy water, not to waste water. But if you're feeling at all guilty, just think about some of the world's biggest problems and how you can solve them. Take longer baths. Enjoy.
So come and join us. All you need to do is grab your phone and record your big idea, and then post it on LinkedIn with the hashtag Radical Change and @mention Water Climate Discussion. With that, we close this month's Water Action Platform. Once again, I'd like to thank all of our fantastic sponsors and, of course, all of today's contributors. Next month, Piers will be back from his summer holidays and hosting Water Action Platform number 68. It will take place on the 19th of September at the same times as today. I hope you can join him. Until then, keep asking questions, keep sharing, and keep safe.